Who streets? Our streets. 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 Right, boys. Right, here we go. We're going right. Next one, right. What do we want? O'Gorman now, yeah? What do we want?
O'Gorman now.
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 Pay attention, man, don't go groomer. Your time is up. If you don't leave, we're coming after you. You're fucking Peter Bush, good man.
Out, out. Helen McAtee. Out, out, out.
Helen McAtee, out. Who streets? Our streets. Who streets? Our streets.
Houses.
Who streets? Our streets.
Look at that.
Our streets. Who streets? 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 Our streets.
Boy, oh boy, it is absolutely heating up in Ireland right now. The world should take note. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. If there's anybody in Texas, this is how you do it. If there's anybody across the world that's having the same issues as Ireland, you think to yourself, look, there's no hope. My government's turned tyrannical. They're putting people in and out of the country constantly. We're not against immigration or helping refugees here, but, you know, to a certain degree, there needs to be a line drawn in the sand. You know, right now, a lot of countries, there's no line drawn in that sand. There's no cap. Ireland's the same. But the video that you have just watched is thousands, and I mean thousands of Irish people on the streets telling their government, we're not going to accept this. We're not going to be accepted. We're not going to accept being called far right, bigots, racists, all of that. So if there's any whack jobs watching this here, are you saying that the majority of Ireland is far right? That is actually impossible. There's good people in that crowd that understand, look, we've done our fair share helping refugees. We've done our fair share with the migration user line. 70% of the people that come in here that have no passports, no documentation, crimes up, every type of crime, sexual crimes up, drugs is up, fentanyl has hit the streets because of the open door policy of Ireland. And the only people that are supporting this are the whack jobs. Now, I Googled this. I just Googled Coolock, right? Now, what do you see this here? Right, let me just go back. Every time I go to do something, it doesn't work, and I hate that. So here we go. We're going to Google this, right? Boom, right, straight up. The first article, top stories, gangland killer's son urges people to join anti-asylum seeker protests in Coolock. Now, that is Scott Knight. If you know, I actually know Scott personally. He was on my other channel, Holding Official, and I interviewed him about Gangland Dublin. There's a lot of choice words for Scott. Scott's always been good to me. There's never been any badness out of Scott. Always helped me. He's always try to help me. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. He's an Irish citizen, and it's, you know, there's lots of stories out there about Scott. People are making wild accusations left, right, and center about Scott. But that's the first. Look at that there. Look, the first one. Look at that. The first article: gangland killer's son urges people to join anti-asylum seeker protests in Coolock. Now, this is a state media attack. So what they'll do is anybody that has any type of a history of criminality, of anything like that, they will, if they're going to join the protests, they will use those as figures to discredit the protests, to make it look like, well, everybody that's at this protest is going to be a criminal or connected to a criminal of some type. It doesn't matter even if they're reformed like Scott. It doesn't make a difference. The media, the state media, are absolutely atrocious like that. And you just need to watch out for that. That's why I always say, if there's anybody, a clean-cut figure that is against the basically the invasion of Ireland, there's an invasion in Ireland at the minute. Make sure that you're clean-cut, no criminality, nothing like that. And that seems bad for me to say that, because they will weaponize, state media will weaponize everything against you. I'm clean-cut. I don't have a criminal record whatsoever. The only thing they can do is call me far right, and I don't accept that because I'm not far right. Because I will literally debate them on what is far right. They'll never sit down with me. None of these people will ever have a dialogue or sit down with me ever. None of them, because they can't. They're state media. They're paid to literally lie. You need to know that. RTE, all state medias, they lie. And I say this to anybody that is on the fence. Just remember COVID. That's it. You know what they've done through that? That's it. Apply that same logic to everything else, and you've got your answer, right? And there's a story here. You have Roderick O'Gorman, the picture of the guy here. As you heard, choice words for Roderick there, wasn't there? And that Coolock warehouse may house 500 asylum seekers as protests continue. Now think about that. A little town out north, just north of Dublin, and they're going to put 500 asylum seekers, I do believe, in a warehouse. Let's see what it's got to say here. A warehouse in Coolock is being considered to house 500 asylum seekers, the Department of Integration has confirmed. And what you need to know is the far left regime that runs Ireland at the minute, they are the real racists. They are the real racists because they want to house foreign nationals in warehouses like they're cattle. I'm not saying exhaust public funds and put them into hotels, but what I am saying is we don't want to be housing people in warehouses. If they have to be housed in a warehouse and that's the shape that's what we can allocate them, then why are they here in the first place? I'm doing a separate story at the minute. If you don't know about England, you know the processing. They're not going to see England as a safe third country. So if they come into England, if there's, for instance, if asylum seekers come from England to Ireland, which they're promoted to do under the far left regime that runs Ireland, England won't put them back. Sorry, Ireland won't put them back to England because they're out of like EU rules. Don't quote me on it. I'm looking into it, but it's something along those lines. So they're not. They don't see England as a good place to put asylum seekers. And these asylum seekers and these people that are coming into Ireland have already came to safe countries like France, Netherlands, Scotland, England, but they don't see England as a safe country. Think about that. That's the wackiness. This is the clown show. Now, don't forget to set your reminders for the Vragger Clown Show. Simon Harris joins the circus. I'll leave the link for that in the description. That's live. This video will come out tomorrow. This will come out on Monday, so it's going to come out tomorrow. The live will be out tomorrow, 10 a.m. Set your reminders for that. The link is in the description. Mixed use accommodation for families, couples, single adult males and single adult females in the warehouse is being proposed. The department said that full engagement will take place with the public and community leaders. They don't care. Engagement, they want to do this, but they don't care about the protesting. They don't care. They want to basically repopulate Ireland. This is Agenda Ireland 2030, 2040, whatever it is, at play right now. That's what you're seeing, and they're doing it without your permission. They don't care. That's why they've got that other puppet in. Vragger left, and that's very suspicious. Obama comes over, has a word with Richie Sunak. Leo comes back from America, quits the job. That happens in Russia. They're trying to imprison Trump right now. I'm telling you, there's something sketchy going on. These guys know something is going on in the background. What you're seeing here at play is an agenda. Agenda Ireland 2030, 2040 is activated right now. What you're witnessing right now is the million more people they're trying to bring in. That's what they're doing right now. Except we thought they were going to be vetted. We're not even against immigration or refugees. We're just saying, look, 70% of the people coming in here do not have identification. These are the statistics that you have pumped out yourselves. Why is that? Why is there undocumented people coming into this country? Why are you allowing the Irish people to be put at risk? And if you say that, you're considered a far-right bigot, and you're not. That's just a normal thing to ask for here. But the reason why they want that is because they don't want them documented. There's a reason behind that. I'm not going to speak about that just yet. That'll be for separate videos, but there's a reason for that. There's a reason. Protests against the proposal have been ongoing this week at the former Crown's Paints warehouse, with traffic being brought to a standstill by horseback demonstrators on Wednesday night. Go Ireland! That's what I'm trying to say right now. Anybody watching this from around the world, this is what you do. Ireland once again finds itself in the forefront when it comes to media, independent media like myself, just idiots with a mic that are just giving their opinions, that aren't afraid to speak up, that will happily be criticized and scrutinized and people spitting at you and everything. That's fine as long as Ireland's safe. Right now, Ireland's not safe. If anybody's watching this, Canada, Texas, all around the world, this is what you do. You apply the pressure. You don't stop. You don't stop. There's going to be people calling you racists, bigots. Don't worry about that. We know that you're not a racist. We know that you're not a bigot. We know that you're not going to persecute somebody because of the color of their skin. That's wrong. But you want to protect your own land. That's what you're doing. Look at Poland. There's lots of countries now that have awakened. A spokesman for the Department of Integration told Dublin Live the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth is currently considering an offer for the use of the former Crown Paints warehouse in Coolock to accommodate international protection applicants. 500 people in a warehouse. Tell me that isn't sketchy. Oh, you're just helping them? Okay. That's sketchy. That's sketchy. I don't care about it. That's like a military operation, in my opinion. The proposal is for units placed inside the warehouse, providing mixed-use accommodation for families, couples. Why do you keep going over the same thing? An experienced and trusted accommodation provider has expressed interest in the delivery of the accommodation and a tenement security service under this proposal. People seeking international protection would be accommodated on a gradual basis under the proposal, and an estimated 500 people may be housed there. 500 people. That's a small school. That's 500 people. And do not tell me there's going to be women put into there. You're telling me that no, they're all 98% of them are going to be males. Undocumented males. So we're going to apply the 70% logic to that. 70% of the people in that warehouse are going to be undocumented. What's 70% of 500, right? You do the math. That's a lot of people living in an area that are undocumented, that people don't know who they are. Is it a double whammy? Are they, because asylum seekers, once they get their Irish ID card, can vote in a general election, I believe. Don't quote me on it, but I believe I've read into it a little bit. And this was allowed since 2004. So is this the case? They're going to bring in so many people, get them the Irish ID card so then they can vote to keep the corrupt in power. Is that what it is? Listen, mad respect to everybody that was down there today. I wish I could have got down. There was thousands of people. So for anybody, for all the whack jobs, for the media, for the state media that's owned, that's corrupted, we don't listen to you. We don't want to hear what you have to say. We don't care if you call people racists and bigots and homophobes and all those things, because we're not. We're none of those things. Yes, are you going to get racists in every country? Yes, of course you're going to get that. I'm not denying there's not. I'm not saying there's no racists in Ireland. Of course you're going to get racists, but we're not. We're saying housing people like cattle in warehouses is racist. We're calling you racist. We're calling RTE, the far left regime that runs Ireland, you're racist. You're the racist ones, not us. We don't want to house people like cattle. And we're not going to exhaust public funds on housing these people, but we know why you're doing it. As soon as these people can come in, they're given an Irish ID card. Once they have that, they can vote in I think it's a general election. They might not be able to vote for in referendums, but when it comes to the big boy talk, like keeping the corrupt in power, you're going to house these people, put them in there, give them the little Irish ID card, vote for that yoke over there, and everything's good. Everything's A-okay. Don't worry about it. Undocumented, even better. Because if I'll tell you, just on that note, right? I've been thinking about this. This is what I'm working on. I'm looking into this at the minute, right? So the undocumented thing, as I said, I've debunked what Helen McEntee said. She says, oh, look, even if they don't have legitimate documentation, they still have to prove who they are. But then I would say, how can they prove who they are if they don't have legitimate documentation? That's where she lied to you without actually lying. You have to understand the politicians' language. During COVID, I read into it. Now I can debunk everything like that. Everything that they say, I scrutinize, and they can't get by me in that one, right? I noticed that straight out. So I was thinking about this. Why would they want them undocumented, right? Because if they're documented, then there's proper ramifications for that. So there's proper pushback with that. So for instance, if an undocumented male comes in, boom, does something bad, criminality, grape, speedo stuff, do you know what I mean? Then if they're documented, then there'll be more questions asked. Why was this person allowed to come in? Or they can't get in the first place. So what you do is if you want if you know that Africa and the Middle East is emptying their prisons and their asylums, and you know, well, these people won't get in because if we screen them, they're not going to get in. So we'll have to let them in. We'll have to sort of use the politicians' language and the media language to sort of penetrate the psyche of the sheep to keep them cool. But really, what we're doing is we're allowing undocumented migrants in. Once they get the ID card, they'll be allocated to the correct party to vote. They'll vote for those people, and that's keeping the corrupt in power in a general election. That's what it is, 100%. And what we'll do is anybody that speaks up about this, we're going to call them a racist. No, you're not a. You are the real racists, like proper, full scale, like I'm going to say Democrat racist, left racist, like far left racist. It's like racism like you've never came across before in your life. It's a different type of racism. You might get people that might be a bit worried about their neighbor. Well, I don't like that fella because he's a bit different from me. That's a form of racism. But then there's, I don't care about those people and I'm going to house them like cattle because they are worthless and meaningless to me. And we're going to use these people as bodies and for votes to keep us in power. That's next level racism because it's basically the same as slavery. And that's the way you need to see this. And a lot of these boyos are not coming from war-torn countries. They're just coming from developing countries that just aren't as developed as, say, the West. And that's why you're seeing lots of like a culture mix where a lot of, not all of them, there's a lot of them coming in via the legal means and they're unhappy too. I spoke to a Nigerian doctor the other day. I'm not going to say his name. And we had a conversation. I was like, if you mind me asking, how hard was to get in here? It was like really, really hard. Like I had to be screened. I had to go through I had to get my university degree. I had to go over to England, and then I had to get all these different types of visas. And then I was like, there's people coming in here off a plane with no identification. He says it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. He was from Nigeria. Do you know what I mean? It's a disgrace. He goes, I can't say anything about it because this isn't my country yet till he gets his full blown citizenship. He hasn't even got a citizenship. And there's people coming in here automatically given ID cards, Irish ID cards, British ID cards, French ID cards. Do you know what I mean? But the reason why they're doing that because that doctor doesn't mean anything to them because he's educated, he's an intelligent man. But a lot of he says, like, if you go into Nigeria, if you go into a lot of the different African countries, they're not as developed here. The culture is completely different. And it takes you a while to adapt to that, especially whenever you're fleeing, maybe there's guerrilla warfare. He says it takes you a while to adapt to that. Women don't have many rights. Anybody that's been to North Africa understands how much of a shithole it is. Like a proper shithole. I know people that have been there. I'm not going to mention their name. I get texts on a daily basis from developing countries with video footage and everything, and I never show it. I could have thousands of videos on my channel, but I'm never going to show it because it's in confidence. Very, very bad videos in regards to a lot of things that are going on around the world, especially Israel, Palestine. But they come in and especially under Islamic law, a lot of these places have Sharia law. People don't realize right now in Africa they're literally slaying Christians openly, and it's promoted, kill them all. So we're allowing a certain group of those people in, and don't tell me that they aren't filled with a Boko Haram and terrorists. As I said, the woman blew the whistle, and she was around the 7/7 bombers. She done that interview for RTE, and she said she was asked the question, "Is there any terrorists in Ireland?" She said 150 plus, which could mean 1,000. That's 150 jihadi terrorists that hate Western democracy, and they will use weak leaders that run Ireland to build their criminal empire, to target. They might not target Ireland, but they'll use Ireland as like sort of like a base to target England, America, because it's got access to America, South America. Do you think the boyos that are coming into Texas? How do you think they're getting over there? How do you think they would get from A to B? There's boats that leave from Ireland to go straight across the water to South America. There's a whole fleet of planes that have to scan number plates of boats and a lot of these boats are carrying drugs, fentanyl, and they're allowed in now because of the open door policies. That's what it is. I don't care what anybody says. That's what it is. I'm 95% sure in everything I've just said there, especially the reason behind the undocumented, like having them not documented, and the reason for why they're here. They're given that ID card. With an Irish ID card, I do believe that you can vote in a general election, and they will vote. They will be told who to vote for, and that keeps them in power. That keeps the corrupt in power. So very tough times ahead, guys. I do believe, and this is just me saying this, the next election that's coming up, that I think that they're bringing in as many as possible right now, so then they can get the votes in for the upcoming election, because they know that the people are not going to vote for any of the parties that are the main parties that have been running Ireland for the past the majority of the time. So they know the people aren't going to vote for us, so we need to bring in the votes. So the upcoming election could literally be the last election in Ireland that the Irish people might have a chance of winning. So it's very important that you vote in this upcoming election. That you don't vote for the Sinn Féins, you don't vote for the Fianna Fáils, the Fine Gaels. You vote for the other ones, the Freedom Parties, the Nationalist Parties, and to those ones. Nobody let the whack jobs vote for the other ones. That's what they want. They want anarchy. They want to see Ireland destroyed. We don't. All we're asking for here, this is all we're asking for: a limit on the refugees, a good screening process, so nobody's getting into this country if they don't have a passport. Any criminal activity, criminal behavior, when you're screened, you're not getting in. Terrorism, you're not getting in. That will reduce the numbers by 70%. I think we'll be happy with that. That's the two things that we're asking for: a cap on refugees and a good screening process, and that's it. They're not going to do that because they need that corrupt process to get their votes, as I just explained. Crazy times ahead, folks. Crazy times ahead.